Rack them up because this one's going to get weird.
It's definitely going to get weird, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined again by Leonard Low. Welcome, my good friend. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, or is it good night with the Americans over there?
What time
is
it?
It's barely 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me, man.
Well, it's 10 p.m. for us Scots, you know. It's time zones are crazy.
Getting close to
so, guys, I would like to meet everybody. Don't worry, we'll only on for an hour. You can go to your bed and dream about ghosts and ghouls and all those strange things that go bump in the night. But everybody in the chat, thank you for joining, guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us. It's going to be an interesting show tonight, guys, because we're going to be talking about hauntings. And Leonard was actually talking before we started, and it's very interesting. But before we dive into what we're going to talk about, Leonard, can you give yourself a wee punt? Where can people find you if they want to get you on their show, or where can people find you?
Best place to get me is on Facebook. That's easy enough. Or I mean, I've got an email. I'm easy to find. I'm an author. I'm an author of 7 books, and my book's still in America through Garbage Books and Barnes and Noble. Leonard Low. Google me, find me. I'm easy to find.
Yep.
Easy to please as well.
Well, we've provided the links below, so that should help people find your stuff out there. So, Leonard, do tell us all about hauntings. What can you tell us? What would you say? I'm going to dive right into this. What would you say was the worst case haunting that you've ever experienced?
The worst case. I tell you the worst case, as in. I'd have to say it was the. I went to a case in Kennewy. Me and my partner. There's 2 of us that do this. It's me and my friend Roger Wilson, and we Roger's like my tech guy. If it breaks down, he knows how to fix it. He's one of these chaps. We were called to a house in Kennewy, little village not far from where I live. And the problem being, it was when I go to help somebody out, I'll go and give them an initial visit. We'll sit down and we'll talk. I'll hear their stories, and then we'll decide where we're going to take this further. And this is what we did. We went to meet this couple in this lovely wee bungalow house. We went in. It was fairly modern. An old house, but fairly modern, all dry-lined and smart. And, my first initial feeling was, God, I could live here. This is nice. And the guy loved his music and had his guitars and stuff all over the place, and it was well set out. And the nice couple. And then they started talking. They had 2 trapdoors that led into the ceiling space, one in the kitchen, one in the hallway. And the woman said at some point we had these wee slaters, and the slaters love the damp and the wet, and they seem to be coming down in loads from this trapdoor hatch. So they wanted to deal with it. They must have a leak up there or something. So they went into the loft of their house, and what they produced was an old suitcase. There was nothing else in the loft, but there was an old suitcase pashed away at the back. They brought it downstairs and opened it up. And it was full of Masonic clothes, robes and stuff. And the weird thing, it was for a woman. Now, I didn't know there was a female side of the Masons, and I think they're called the Red Star.
It's the Southern Star.
Southern Star, that's it. And
my grand.
I mean, I didn't know a thing about the female side of the Masons. But anyway, this is what it was. It was full of gowns and gavels and regular stuff for the Masons, the Masonic Lodge. And the guy being a Celtic supporter, just picked it up and stuck it in his bucket and gone. That was that gone. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. You could have put it on the internet, but no. So he got rid of it. And as soon as that was gone, the house came alive, he said. We had thumpings and bangings, crashes. I started seeing things at night and voices. And there's an element of violence in it. The woman said she went through to her kitchen to make a cup of tea just innocently. and bang, and all the cupboards opened, and she was terrified, and all she said she could hear was laughing. So we went there, and the story she was given, I said, this is similar to something I've heard about in the 1950s. And what it was there was a household up in Inverness near Fort William, and an English guy bought this little croft. He moved into the croft, and he got it all comfortable and nice. It was an upstairs, downstairs kind of long building overlooking the loch, and fine until these massive roses that blocked the view of the windows onto the loch. They cut the roses down. They sheared them off, and when they sheared them off, the house came alive. And
that's interesting.
They heard this scrape, bang, scrape, bang, scrape, and there's never anybody there. They couldn't even understand what was going on until I went down the village and did some detective work, and they found out the old woman that used to have their place. She used to show her roses and win prizes for them, and it was a pride and joy, and they just chopped them down. And the woman was disabled in a wheelchair, refused to go to a home, and she used to crawl up the stairs to her bed at night, but she had two kind of rubber walking stick ends, and this is where she do the bang, scrape, pulling herself along the floor to her bed. Now this is like straight out of a horror film, and they saw her one night. Things got so bad in the house. I'll cut a long story short. You can read up on this. But things got so bad in the house that they dynamited the place. Boom, gone. So that'll teach you, Mr. Ghost. So the house blew to pieces. Now this is the story, and it was all because they cut down the roses. Now this is a story I told to this family in Kenneway. It says this is similar to what you've done here. You've chucked out something that belonged to the previous owners. And now they've come alive. So anyway, we agreed to come back in a week's time and set up and investigate the place. But the very next morning, I got a phone call, and it was from the owner. It says, "Can you come here now?" I says, "What do you mean?" It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It says, "I want you here now." Now, what had happened is I'd given that story about the woman with the roses in their living room with them. You're going to love this. They woke up in bed together in the morning, covered in hundreds of petals of roses in their bed.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they were terrified. And
that's something intelligent.
But the thing was that the rose petals were it was an old. They're all withered and old. But there was hundreds of them, and they're all over us in our own bed. So we decided we'll start this investigation right now, and we came up and we started recording, and we had voices come through on a tape recorder. A really sweary guy swearing at us. So we started to tease him. I mean, the Orange Lodge are famous for being Protestants, so. Yeah. We started, would you believe it, the Rangers were playing Celtic that weekend. So we started having a go. And this thing got really nasty, really, really sweary. And it was a man telling me to F off. And but how we do with things is we had the owners in the living room watching a telly that I was on camera through in the kitchen. And so they could see what I was doing and see what I was asking questions. And although we recorded a lot of the voices and things that came through, they were seeing it firsthand. And it was amazing. We had good communication with this thing. And after a couple of hours, we got a name from this person, and it made sense with who was the last owner. And we got some details on the last owner was a wife beater and a bit of a drunk. And it was all making sense. And we got his name. And the house was called Alrose House. And because the wife's name was Rose and he was Alistair. So we got Alistair coming through, speaking to us, identified himself. But anyway, after about 2-3 hours of this, we decided to stop and just have a catch up. And we're speaking to the owners, and they were so intrigued at what we were doing. And the woman said to us, "Shall I make you a cup of tea?" And I went, "Yeah, I'd love one actually." So she's got a wee corridor leads into her kitchen, and she went into her kitchen and she's just chatting away to me, putting the kettle on, and she was a woman in her 50s, and she was quite terrified about what was going on and what had happened to her. And as she's talking to me, and I'm just leaning against the door, talking away, saying, how things are. There was an explosion, like bang, and I went, Christ!
Wow!
And it came from the cupboard. She screamed. It came from the cupboard next to her, and she gingerly opened the cupboard up, and there inside there was plates. It's for keeping plates, cutlery. And there was the top 3 plates in this pile of plates, shattered. I mean, it exploded. I was speechless. And then all we heard was laughing. And
that's crazy. But that is crazy because I wonder if it was the spirit. I mean, obviously there was a guy spirit there. Do you think when that stuff got thrown out, the spirit was maybe the woman that was attached to, let's just say, the woman stuff for the Eastern Star, right, was removed too, and that guy came alive inside that house? Maybe she was protecting them.
If you've lost someone that meant something to you, and you say you had a lock of her hair, or you had a ring or something, and then you lost it, you'd be very upset. And I think this is the same. Yeah, the same way with this. This was his wife's robes of the lodge, and we just binned them. So there was no bringing them back. What they did keep, they kept a little gavel thing.
Yeah,
and so we tried to tempt it with this gavel thing, but wasn't interested at all. It was a really. I've been in places where things have moved, and you kind of go, whoa, wait a minute, did that actually happen? And you look at it and you go, come on now. And then it moves again and you go, whoa. Well, in this case, with the explosion in the kitchen, I pulled out the plates and I'm looking, this is set up. This is a charge. They put a charge in there and it's blown.
Yeah.
And I'm the stool pigeon. Ha ha ha. Somebody's probably filming me just now. Nah, you got everything's going through my head. And I'm hearing somebody laughing, and there's nothing there in that kitchen. When I opened up the cupboard, the dishes were like rammed full, three plates to the roof, and they'd shattered, and I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I was like, this, half of it's gone. I've just been fooled.
Curiosity.
But it's sitting in the car afterwards and looking at my mate and going, Jesus, that actually happened. That this
did it ever try and follow you home? Follow you home?
But we came back a second week, and the guy they were quite a religious couple. They were dying to get the house blessed, and I said, don't do that. He says, I'll bless the house for you right now, and you'll just sit and fall about laughing at what I do, but nothing will happen with this blessing. I promise you now. And we turned up for the second week, and we'd missed all the action by about 20 minutes. But what happened was the guy. Oh, there's a thing. Yeah. The woman woke up in the morning for some reason, as she normally did, went through into the living room, and she saw something strange on the floor, a wee pile of things, all pink things. Right. And what's this? And it was nail clippings. A woman's cut her toenails or cut her nails. There's a little neat pile of nails in the middle of the carpet. They weren't hers. She said, I didn't where they came from and what it's got to do with anything. See, it just appeared.
What's that called again? Where spirits can, like, say, take something and take it into a different house. What's it called again? It's got a name. It's where they could, like, say, for instance, like the Enfield or whatever house, they can take an object
manifested as
throw it through the wall. Yeah. So that's interesting, that, because it makes you wonder, like, for where it got the roses from. But where did it get the clippings? Was that the next door neighbours that was doing their nails?
Well, it was quite disgusting, to be honest. They couldn't believe who did this. You know, somebody's come in my house, sat there and cut their nails. This is horrible. And they kept him. We saw them, and of course that is, you know, we checked the wife's hands. It's not hers, and she couldn't explain where they'd come from. These are the kind of silly wee things that were happening. But the man was in the garden doing his gardening, and he said, "I just looked up and I saw the curtains from our spare bedroom, were moving, and I thought, oh, wife's doing the hoovering." And then he looked to the kitchen. He saw his wife in the kitchen. He went, "There's somebody in our spare bedroom." And he went, right. And as he moved, he says, "I saw the curtains come down, like the whole curtain set got ripped off the wall." He reached the bedroom, and he said the bedroom was chaos. There was this big crystal vase. It just come off the wall, shattered against the wall, another wall, but the curtains had been ripped, and they were like 6-7 foot curtains. They've been ripped from the wall, the whole lot, the timber and everything, been ripped off the wall. And it was the other side of the room. And he says, "What happened? What's this all about? What was wrong with the curtains?" And I said, it's just wanting attention. This is all it's wanting. It's just wanting attention." And I mean, we went back about 3-4 times, and he actually saw it. The owner of the house saw it. He's watching the football in his living room one night, and there it was, standing looking at him from this kitchen. I mean, the guy's a bit of a hard man. The guy's a bit of a hard dude, you know, and he was embarrassed to say, I was in tears. I was scared.
What did the spirit look like? What did it?
It was a man. He said there was a man just standing there staring at him. He never described the clothes or anything, but just standing, angry looking. "What you doing in my house?" type of thing. Now, I said this couple were fairly religious. What they did next was they went and got a priest to bless the house. I says, the minute you've done that, I'll tell you what will happen now. You'll have nothing happen for a few days, and it'll come back with a vengeance, and it'll be even worse. You've just antagonized it. That's all you've done. And so they said, "We're going to leave it because we don't want. They were scared that we're going to film them and you know, have another Enfield with them in it. They didn't want the attention, you know. They didn't want the attention, which is fair enough.
How do you go about getting rid of something like that?
You don't. You simply don't. You've got to let it burn itself out. Like the Enfield case, like any other poltergeist case, there's no minister in this bloody world that will get rid of the spirit for you, but he'll claim he will because it puts money in his pockets. I'm sick of the church getting involved in hauntings. We're past that stage. Come on, this is the 22nd century. Leave all the Stone Age stuff behind. You know, I'm sitting in your house. Go on, bless me and get rid of me. See if I move. And that's what you're up against. Let's leave all the Disney behind, people. Come on. What you have in the house with a poltergeist is a unique situation where you might have a previous owner in the house, which you can understand why that previous owner's angry or stunned that you're there. We don't know how this happens. I'm getting a little visitor here. There we go. Oh, who's that? Who's that?
A cat person. A cat person.
That's my little familiar.
I mean, it's quite interesting that how you say it burned itself out. I mean, if it was any intelligence, could you know maybe reason? Again, this is coming for me like it's if it had any intelligence, could you maybe know reason where it say, "Listen, come on, you're scaring the family."
Yeah, we did all that. We did all that, and we had it laugh at us. It laughed. I mean, if you've lived in that house for 50 years and you've died in that house, it's your house. You know, I'm the intruder. When you think about it, I'm the intruder. Why they haven't gone is another reason. It's like the Enfield case where we had Bill, who was so angry because it was his house, and all these people are in it, run about redecorating. No wonder they go daft. The poltergeists, they don't like the colours or what you're doing to it.
I mean, the Enfield case was quite an interesting case, but as I said before the start of the show, is it the Black Monkey Pontefract? I mean, they still say that house is still active to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been there, or have you ever heard anything?
No,
about that
I've
case?
never been in the building. I've never been in the building. I was in the Enfield building. I was lucky enough to be because I lived in London. I've been to Borley. There's nothing left at Borley. Again, it's a historic haunting. That is well missed. But I do like what Harry Price did there. Kind of set the bar for ghost hunters and investigators. I spent. I was probably one of the last few people to spend time at the Bedlam Hospital in High Barnet.
Yeah.
That was enormous. Well, there was 3 supposed Jack the Rippers in there, as many. That was a lunatic asylum for 200-300 years. It was like a town. They had the whole place working, where they'd grown their own crops and living there.
That's right. Yeah.
We turned that place into flats, and I pity anybody that bought one of the flats.
Oh my God.
We working there at night. Before we knocked them down, it was just corridors of padded rooms, and the little padded rooms, all leather, full of fingernails and suicide notes rammed into every single little crevice you could find. Somebody had written a suicide note and poked it in, and we spent half our time reading them. Not a nice place to work.
It's quite interesting, because if you think about it, there'll be a lot of like cases with people with hauntings where it's just is it the stone tape theory? Do you help us with your it's like the stone tape where like it's just like a repeating spirit, so it's getting up, it's going down the stairs, it's going into the living room, it's going out the door, and it does that every night at say 10:30 at night or something like that, and everybody sees it. But then you get these spirits that are intelligent, and they know that they're pissed off with you because you've put a wall down, or you've noted something down that they like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite interesting. I mean, you're talking about that mental asylum. You think about the bits of paper. Do you think that there's any energy in those bits of paper where they've wrote their suicide note?
Horrible. They're a lot of these ones that we used to pull them out and read them to each other.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a Jamaican one, very childish and crayon, and said, "When I die, I want Peter to have my radio. I want this other guy to have my books." And it was dedicating where he was wanting his stuff to go, and it was obviously a suicide or whatever happened to the fellow. But we worked on these. We worked these places ready, getting them ready for demolition, and then we rebuilt over them. And I remember working there late at night, and guys coming through to me and say, "We're leaving now." I mean, we worked there 24 hours. We're leaving here now, and it's like 11:30. Says, "What's the matter?" I says, "I won't stay here another fucking minute." And I goes, "What's up?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "In the room I'm working in, someone's singing. someone's singing away, and there's only me here."
There's actually a place near me, and it's a lot of people know about it. It's actually it's called Birkwood. Have you ever heard it? It's in.
I've heard of Birkwood. Yes.
It's in some disgraceful state now. It's totally collapsed, and that place is just downright weird. It just does. It's down. I think it was for children with learning difficulties. But right. It had its own mortuary, and it had its own other kind of part of the building. But that place is. I've got a friend that goes out ghost hunting with me. His name's Alan, and he'll not go back there because he doesn't like it. There's something dark there. It makes you wonder. I mean, there'll be entities out there that like to hang about hospitals, won't they? Like abandoned mental asylums, because they'll like the torment. That's what they'll feed off. They'll feed off the fear.
See, I had a partner who was seriously ill and spent a year in hospital before she died. So I was in Archway Hospital every day really for a year.
Yeah.
Finish work and go straight to hospital. She was in intensive care in a coma. Nasty business. This is 20 years ago now, but it's going to hospital, and it's all the hangers on, all these people that go to hospital because there's no place for them, and they get attention there, and they're all hangers on. They're all just bums, really, but they get attention in the hospitals, and that's where they hang around. And you take that from them, and it's the only home they ever had. It's sad as hell.
It is definitely sad, because you think about the hospitals out there that have been renovated and turned into flats, like you say.
Yeah, well, the hospital that I'm on about, Archway, I mean, that's where I got my first photograph. I was in a hospital for a year, and I was doing a lot of research on a building in Pittenweem, where to do with the witch trials. It's from my first book came out, the WEEM WITCH. And I had some photographs taken inside this building in Pittenweem, and it made the Sunday papers, and they put it as a middle spread. They called it Mostly Ghostly, which was great. So I was a bit of a star. I was a bit of a star in the hospital, and so the doctors were they'd known me for 6 months or so already, and they came to me and said, we have a problem in our basement of the hospital. Now, Archway was built in about 1488, and it was the time of Richard III, and it started off as a leper colony. So it was a leper colony, and now it's like a huge general hospital with 400 beds or so. But the leper colony side still exists, and it's down in the basements of the place. So they said occasionally we've got to go down there and get files. It's just an old storeroom, and loads of corridors and a storeroom, and there's a boiler down there, but it's horrible. Our nurses won't go there on their own because they keep seeing things. And I went, let me at it. So I got my cameras and stuff, and I got the administrator of the hospital to take me down there, and we went for a visit in the middle of the night. We got down there, and I saw this strange kind of hydrant for a fire hydrant embedded into the wall, and I thought that's completely false. So I got the hydrant and fiddled with it and pulled it, and lo and behold, behind it is a complete catacomb of arches. I've found the old leper colony hospital, and so we had a wander. It was so. I must have been the first one in this area for hundreds of years, because the ground was crystallized. It would hold me up like snow, and then I'd crunch through it. And so I was wondering about this. You could see where every bed would have stood by these huge Gothic archways under the hospital. And so, we wandered around there, and it was fascinating. But then we came out into the corridors. I never had a feeling for anything, but we got into this corridor, and the woman with me went, "Oh, what was that?" And I went, "What do you mean?" She said, "Something just moved like down this corridor." So I went, "Okay, let me have a look." So I got my camera out, and we ventured up this corridor. Now, both sides of the corridor are just files, like cabinets and files. And I'm told there were smallpox files from First World War. So we're wandering up the corridor, and all of a sudden, there was something moved, and it was like someone out of Star Trek. It was hovering in the air and moving and pulsating and getting closer and getting closer. By this stage, the woman I'm with is halfway out the door. She's had enough, but I'm trying to take photographs. I managed to get about 5 photographs of this thing getting closer and closer towards us, and then we legged it. When the last picture I took, all I could see was a child, like a 6-year-old child, floating in the air. mid-body. It had didn't have legs, but it was a child. And the photographs I took, you can Google it. The Archway Leper Boy it came out as. The Archway Hospital Leper Boy. Just Google my name, Leonard Low. You'll see a photograph of it, and that made about 30 papers in the UK, and it went to America as well. And I was on one of the programs out there in which they investigate photographs and stuff. I can't remember who they were, but that's the one that hit home and got my name in the papers. Since then, I've had about 8 photographs in the national papers and stuff. So yeah, I'll need
to look that up because that's fascinating. I'm going to let my co-host Dakota ask some questions.
Well, what's even more? Just to let me finish my story. It looked like half a child. I mean, it's pretty clear. It's like a 6-year-old boy's head and torso, but there's no legs to it. But then with research, I was told that the corridors I was in, they dug down about a meter to make room for the cabinets. So when I say that child was like floating in the air, he would have actually been standing on the floor that was there. You see, the floor that removed it to make room for the cabinets. So if this boy was from a previous age, he was standing on the floor that was originally there when he was there.
That's fascinating because that's like people saying you get into a house, let's say totally demolished inside it, and there's no floors and there's no doors.
Yeah, that's right.
Those spirits are living their life out as they would be. So, and their reality, it's all fully furnished. But in our reality,
the hospital hates me because that paper, as I said, it went to 30 different newspapers. All the nationals took it, and all the Evening Standards took it, and it made the hospital famous for a while. And then they got harassed by Ghostbusters wanting to go down there themselves. And then I started. Then it's a hospital, you see, and then I started getting letters from mothers who'd lost children in the hospital who were trying to get me to say, "Oh, that photograph looks like." No, I can't do this. Yeah. And I thought I better just back off out of here because I'm hurting people, and that's what I'm not about. You can understand that did it look like my child? Oh God, I can't do this. Yeah, so you got to watch what you're doing.
You have to. Go on,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, honestly, Chris, I'm fucking dumbfounded. Just I'm trying to look at the picture right now, but unfortunately, it brings up Robert De Niro as Leonard Low.
He's a stand-in. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, in hospitals, it must be quite hard for people because obviously they're like their sons and their daughters or their fathers and their mothers will die there, and they will look at like you, for instance, as a ghost hunter and think, "Oh, did you see my uncle? Did you see my grandmother? Did you see my mother? Did you see these things?" And it must get quite a lot.
Well, on the same subject as hospitals, my mother took a stroke and was in a bad way in hospital, and I had to come up from London to see her, and she was away in WEEM's, one of the WEEM's hospitals in Fife, and they deal with stroke victims and stuff like that. So I had to go and visit her, and I was in and out the hospital, and of course because I'd been in the papers, the nurses knew me, and of course they came to me with stories, and they had a cracker in the WEEM's hospital where there's a common thing that happens to the nurses there, and it's doing the rounds at night and coming to one of the wards, opening the doors, and they are down all the rows of beds with the patients. There's all these black kids. There's 5-6 black kids, and they're playing around a bed. And so the nurse will go, "Hey, hey," and she'll walk down, shooing them out. And she said, as I got closer to the bed, I realized they weren't black kids; they were just dirty, and then they all disappeared. And she said, I got closer to the bed, and the patient had died. And this when she went back to the head nurse to tell them about what she saw. this has happened to us all. We've all seen this. Now, the WEEMS is famous for its coal mines, and of course the wee boys went down the mines. We boys and girls, aged 6, went down the mines, and the death rate down there was shocking.
Oh, good God.
There is records of them. Every month there was a casualty sort of thing. So this hospital dealt with the wee kids down the mines, and they're still in the hospital. And for some reason, when somebody passes over, they all appear, and they're all dancing around the bed. The nurse sees them. So
do you think it's
fascinating?
Do you think it's maybe they're helping them cross to the other world?
I don't know. I'd like to think so. That'd be nice. That'd be a nice thing. But they were dancing and laughing. This is the thing. The kids she saw, and of course she's a matron, so she's like storming in there to give him scud in the lug, bang, and she just said they weren't black kids. They were dirty kids. They're all covered in
coal dust.
Yeah. So that's. I think every hospital has a ghost story, and that's the WEEMS one.
I've heard some tales for nurses that I know. Dakota, would you?
I've heard some tales from the hospital here in town. That was barely built like 15 years ago. But then again, like you said, who isn't dying at the hospital? But now, I do want to try to help get this out there. You're mentioning that you're actually getting ready to release a museum this year. But just before the show, you want to talk about that, but help get the word out.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's why I'm looking so disheveled at the moment. This time of night over here, it's nearly 11 o'clock. But I've had no sleep last night. I had a big what? Sorry, a big present. My voice in the background here is my partner Ruth, who's keeping me right here. My big presentation was today, and it was to get funding for a museum. Now, I don't just write about Scottish witches. I hold loads of manuscripts and actual items from the 16th and 17th century witch trials. The Americans, hang on. Americans. Uh-oh.
Americans are coming.
Right, here we go. One for the Americans. Hi. Are you familiar with this tree? Can you see this tree?
Aye.
I can see it.
This is the tree from Boston Common. Yep. It's a great elm tree from Boston Common. And there's a building in the background there. I think it was the city courts. And what that tree is famous for is all you colonial rascals decided to rebel against us underneath the branches of that tree, and then we had the Boston Tea Party. It was all arranged underneath the branches of that tree, and this is where the revolution started with all you colonial chaps out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Salem tree was also a hanging tree as well. We had Indian chiefs, some Huguenots got hanged from the branches of it, with the strict Puritans out there. They didn't like the French religion, but it was also used to hang some of the Salem witches. Some of the Salem witches were hanged on the branches of that tree, the great elm in Boston Manor. When the tree was planted in 1670 or thereabouts, and it came down in 1876. It was a very remarkable pinpoint on the map, the Boston elm tree. And when it came down, they're all kind of devastated about it. It was very rotted, but it lasted a long time. And what they did was the wood that they could use, they carved a chair out of it and put it in Boston Museum, and it's still there. But they also made 3 little books out of it, and I have one. Can you see that? The great elm planted in Boston Common 1670, and it fell in February 1876. Basically, I have wood from the tree that hanged the Salem witches. There we go. Take that.
That's very interesting. It's quite interesting what someone says in the chat there. Son of the Naked Bigfoot, Mike was one of our dear friends, and that's his son. His dad got a walking stick made from the tree. I'm actually looking at it through the glass in the cabinet it's stored in.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But there was the chairs in Boston Library Museum. It's in there. There's a chair. It's elaborately carved. And they made 3 little books. And, of course, I didn't know it was a walking stick, so that's new to me. But, yeah, it's a nice thing to have. And this is what's one of the pieces going into my museum. I have many Scottish articles. I've got witch prickers. Yeah. I've got all the manuscripts, letters.
What?
One of the most horrible things I've got
what is a witch pricker?
What is a witch pricker?
Sounds like a sex toy.
I had to say it. I had to say it for the Naked Bigfoot, and
you've got a suspect witch in the vicinity. You bring her into the courthouse with the ministers, and there's a process you go through to find out whether this person is actually a witch. You will shave her hair off, shave all the hair off everywhere, and then examine her. You're looking for a mark on her body, like an extra nipple. This would identify her as being a witch or a mole or a wart. If you can't find it on her, then what they do is they suggest that the mark is in her. And then it was employment for a guy called a pricker to have one of these devices. I'll try and... There we go. Can you see that there? It's
like a needle. Yeah.
It's like a metal bodkin needle. It's copper. And it was used to pierce the flesh of the witch every inch, in the mouth, in the anus, everywhere, down the legs, arms, producing blood every stab, witnessed by others. If it didn't produce blood or it didn't produce pain when they stabbed you, that was proof that you're a witch. So that this is a pricker. This one was used in the 1705 Pittenweem case, which I wrote about in my book, the WEEM WITCH.
Yeah.
So so I've actually got heavy duty articles from the witch trials. One of the horrible things I have is I've got quite a bit on the Balgarin case, which was in Paisley. And this was a 1697, a highly written about case where a young girl became basically possessed in her bed, blaming her household servants. 7 of them got burnt as witches. And I have a letter. See, the whole thing about witch finding is it costs lots of money. It cost tons of money, and it was written into the rule books that once you've processed your witch, what properties or boats or farm or any land which owns now belongs to the kirk and the civil authorities. They'd split it in half. So it was well worth your business to find a wealthy witch amongst all your ragamuffins and make it worthwhile. But if you didn't, then the council was going to get left with an awful bill for persecuting witches. And I've got a letter here pursuing the family of the burnt witch called Catherine Campbell, basically because she was a servant, and after her burning, they sold what she owned, and it never reached near what it cost to burn her. And so they're still pursuing, through this letter, they're still pursuing her parents and family for the rest of the money to burn her daughter.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, these are the type of things I've got. Yeah.
I mean, how do you come across those things? How did you get the book, for instance? Because that bound to be quite valuable. I mean, if there's only 3 that's ever been made.
Well, the thing is, I'm onto. I mean, every day I'm going through American auctions, Australian auctions in Europe, and if something Scottish turns up, paperwork, they'll let me know. the thing is, they'll have a date of when the manuscript was written, but nobody can be arsed actually spending their time to try and decipher what the manuscript's about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get a look at it, and because I'm like a witch historian here.
Yeah,
I have books that identify at least 300 witches aren't even on record. That's the kind of stuff I have. I've got books going back to the 1500s on witch trials. I'm quite gifted in what I've got, but the what was I gibbering about? Yes. What was I talking about?
your museum. Your museum.
My museum piece.
Your museum.
The whole thing about these manuscripts is I identify. I can read quite a lot of these old manuscripts. Spend a lot of time in them, and if I can identify the manuscript with a period in Scotland, I'll buy it and examine it more. And sometimes I get lucky, and this is where I get my manuscripts. Certainly, my Catherine Campbell letter to anybody, it's just a debtor's letter. But when I saw the name and I saw the date and saw what it was from, I knew who exactly this person was. I recently, John Skean. I've recently got a manuscript from American markets. John Skean, who was our head of the church during the Berwick witches, and this guy oversaw with the King James VI, the Berwick witches, and so I have a letter with his signature on it. So with his signature comes a story of the man, and this is the sort of stuff I have. So it'll be a storyboard heavy museum with about 30 articles, but I need funding. That's the thing. These things cost money, lots of money.
Yeah.
And
if there's any millionaires out there,
please
contact Leonard.
Yep, here I am. I'm about to open up a witch museum, and I've got the backing of the councils here. And they're throwing some money at me, but I need lots more. And it'll be first of its kind. It'll be a Scottish witch trial museum.
That'll be interesting.
I'll have a few pieces from Salem.
You'll need to tell us when you open that, because I would like to come in and do a wee bit of video.
If I get the funding and I get a bit lucky, it should be running by April.
Oh, that'll be good. So we've got about 10 minutes left of the show, and we know you're really tired, but I've actually got a question for you, Leonard. How did you get into this? How did this all start with you?
Oh Christ! I was 25. I was 25 years old, and I had a sister who was 36, and she had complete kidney failure, and she was a nurse as well, so she knew what was happening to her, and it was a slow, drawn process, and she was dying. So I came home from London to see her in the hospital. She'd refused treatment. She had enough. She had glaucoma.
Yeah.
She was bald. She had yellow. Oh God, she was just having a terrible time of it on dialysis.
Yeah.
There was no saving her. So she decided enough's enough, and she refused treatment, and eventually she went. But anyway, me and my sister were very close. She was a great soul. She loved her music. She loved Peter Gabriel, and she was your original hippie. You know, she was a good. She went to Glastonbury and danced naked in the mud.
Yeah.
This is the type of sister she was. She was the one that. When I got my first motorbike, I used to go to the local park and use the lights to help her find mushrooms, this type of thing. You know what I mean? She was a total hippie, but she passed, and that was it. So we got a house in Largo in Fife here that was built in 1776. It's a kind of it's a date that a few Americans might remember. 1776 revolution in the air. Yeah, colonial chaps. Yeah, naughty boys. But anyway, that's when the house was built, and so it's an old 5-bedroom house with a cellar. That cellar should have been in a horror film. God, that was woo. But anyway, the thing was, I'd gone to bed, and it was my sister's funeral was the next day, you see, and I'd gone to bed and I'd set out all my clothes, and to be honest with you, we were glad it was over. That sounds horrible. We were glad she'd finally gone, because
I know what you mean.
We'd seen 2 weeks of hell, slowly getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and going, hopefully it's today, and it would be the next day, and we just sort of get pathetically worse. But anyway, so we're all kind of prepared and happy that, you know, I've got 4 other brothers and sisters, and it was my mum. So I went to bed, and everything set up for the funeral next day, and I always read before I go to bed, so I read. I hadn't been drinking or anything. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I put the light off, went to sleep, and I got this waft of a freezing cold breeze just came over me, and I went, "What was that?" You know, I know our house, and you don't get breezes in our house. And I sat up, and I heard, "It's me, it's your Lorna." And I sat up, and I looked, and at the bottom of my bed was my sister sitting on my bed. Now I could see my sister in the mirror. She was there, just sitting. She was sitting, grinning, and she's in a white gown, just grinning at me. And you know what I did? I turned round, I bit my cushion, and screamed. I bit my cushion. I felt like afterwards. I felt, what a fool. But I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. There's my dead sister sitting there talking to me on the edge of my bed, and I looked at her, and she looked like frightened, and she just stood up and faded away. That was it. I got up. I walked the house. I went for the whiskey bottle, and I went out the house. And we've got a big kind of, not a mountain, but it's a big hill behind us, 1,000-foot high. And I climbed this hill, and I sat at the top with this bottle of whiskey, and I watched the sun come up. And I was a mess. I was a total mess. But you know, it was my sister. God's sakes, and my sister. I'm not frightened of my sister. She was a best friend to me, but I behaved terribly. I've seen ghosts now a few times close up, and I've never reacted like that again. But I felt embarrassed, if that makes any sense to you. I saw a dead person I recognized, and I was terrified. That was my first.
But you never know; it might happen again. You might go to your bed one night, and your sister might appear before you again, and this time you'll no freak out. You'll have a conversation with her.
Well, I did last year. It was of a very interesting. How much time have we got? 5 minutes. I'll try and be quick.
I've got 5 minutes.
I went to Largo Cemetery. Somebody came to me at one of my lectures and said, you ever investigated Largo Cemetery? And I went, I've no need to. No, nothing goes on there. My sister's buried there. So she said, well, I was in the cemetery, and I was dealing with somebody was dead, and a figure walked out from behind a grave, and I watched this figure. He looked like a labourer with string tied around his trousers, and with a black cap on. And I said, I watched him walk through a wall and then walk down through this field, and he just disappeared. And I went, wow. So I did my research and asked, and someone else came up with the same figure. They were about a mile distance on the same track, and they said this man appeared out of nowhere, walked right past them, 6, 7 o'clock at night. They described him exactly the same, and he vanished. And I went, well, the track they're on is called the Coffin Walk, and it used to be a walkway from the local barons of London, Lundin, London Castle, which this walk would take you. They call it the Coffin Walk. It'd take you up to the cemetery. So anyway, okay, I've got something interesting to investigate. So we went to the cemetery and set up, and nothing was happening. And then I got the heat-seeking camera on, and I picked up a figure standing next to a gravestone, a little man. So anyway, we're doing recordings, and through the recordings, I have a load of foreign blethers come through to me. I went, this is weird. I got identified as Polish. Now, the Polish regiments were in Largo during the Second World War. This got me interested.
Yeah.
The poor buggers that went to Arnhem and got shot to pieces.
That's right.
One of the names that came, it's asked this thing its name, and it said Rudinsky. So I did my research, and I found out, fair enough, that there is one Rudinsky in the cemetery, but they couldn't tell me where. And so we went back with a Polish-speaking girl, and we got her to translate as we tried to speak to this Rudinsky. He replied, and when he replied on the first recordings that we did, the Polish girl I was with ran away. She thought it was a great laugh to start with, but when she actually heard this Polish guy's voice, and because he was being naughty to her, he was saying rude things to her. So she thought this was all a laugh, and then all of a sudden this is real. Anyway, we went back there a couple of times, and now let's see if we can find Rudinsky. We know there's one buried in this graveyard. Was he not sitting? Was his grave not 2 graves behind where we were sitting for the recordings? There's a guy, Rudinsky, and he died in 1973. And Christ Almighty, it's great getting evidence of There's a lot of hauntings I've go to where you don't get any names at all. You'll maybe get something calling itself John, but you'll never get a second name. We got the whole thing, and there he is with a grave three up from us. And I say Rudinsky, Polish speaking. I can't even do it, but it's not pronounced right. It's not pronounced like that. It's like Rudinsky. I can't
Rudinsky or something. Or something.
I can't do it. But I've got Polish friends that laugh at me trying to pronounce that name. But so we got a photographic evidence. We got recording evidence, and then we got actual evidence the guy existed and was living. Well, his grave was three behind us where we were sitting. So that was fascinating.
That's amazing. That is amazing. That just shows you there's. I do think, I don't know if it is with the spirit world and stuff like that, but I do think things are planned out for our lives, because it's weird. I've had too many weird things happen, too many coincidences. You've maybe been talking to somebody in the spirit and they've give you your name, and then you've walked down a wee bit and you found their grave. It's like as if it's already planned, if you know. But I would like to say, Leonard, thank you very much for coming on tonight, and we'll need to get you back again sometime when you're
it's no problem. The time has flown, and I'm not as tired as I thought I was. I got my partner behind me here. She's laughing, but what she doesn't know is if I die before her, she's getting right haunted.
Well, you'll need to come and haunt my pal Dakota first. You've got to do it.
I literally have cameras in the bedroom.
So
I'm not going anywhere near your bedroom, pal.
Probably for the
best. So Dakota, do you have anything to say before tomorrow's show?
No.
Do we have planned?
I have to say this was definitely a very fascinating episode. I'm going to have to get some of your books and read up first.
Please do. They're available from Barnes & Noble in your country. And I'm with a new publisher just now. I've got 3 books with a new publisher. They're all to do with witches, and I've got one the Scotland's Untold Stories, which has got about 30 tales in Scotland. That will open your eyes up. Some good ones in there. But I'm all about history, so and not the boring stuff.
It's certainly not. We'll need to get you back sometime, but we're going to let you go now, and we're going to say to everybody in the chat, thank you everybody for coming.
Thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
Yes, it has been. And thank you very much, Leonard, and we'll catch everybody later. See you soon.
Bye-bye.